everyone, welcome back to our another pre-algebra lesson. Today we're gonna discuss square root part 2. Basically I don't follow any book for this tutorial. I follow some international pre-algebra curriculum. If you don't like my teaching style, you can go somewhere else. You can leave my channel, you can leave my Facebook page, you can go somewhere else, because there are millions of YouTube channel, millions of Facebook tutorial out there. If your main objective is learning, end of the day it doesn't matter from where you are learning. So let's go back to the class. So I'm going to review our last lesson now, then I'm going to move on. In our last lesson, what do we learn? We learn what is perfect square, and when we see negative sign outside of the square root, how we're going to simplify that, and when negative sign is inside of the square root, how we're going to simplify that. So let's see again. Square root of 4 equal to, this is perfect, totally perfect square. So why we call it perfect square? Because there is two identical number. When you multiply two identical number, you got the result. That's why it's called perfect square. Here we see that there is no sign. That's why directly you can write the answer is 2. You don't need to put any sign in front of 2. But when you see any negative sign inside or outside of the 2, how are you going to solve that? So for example, this is square root of 4, and you see a negative sign outside of the square root. So where this negative sign gonna go? All you need to transfer this negative sign here, nothing else. All you need to transfer this negative sign this side, nothing else. So our result is 2. Since we know square root of 4 is 2, our result is 2. Let's move this negative sign here. This negative sign gonna be here. So we transfer this one here. We transfer this one here. Now we're gonna check if we put negative sign inside the square root, how we gonna simplify that? Let's say the negative sign inside of the square root. Now how are you gonna simplify that? You have to multiply it by imaginary number. So what is imaginary number? It's not a real number. Imaginary number means when you see negative sign inside, you need to multiply it by square root of -1. So how we gonna get that? So we're gonna multiply square root of 4 times square root of -1. Here we see the negative sign inside the square root, right? So to remove that, to remove negative sign and the square root, you have to multiply it by square root of -1. That's the rule, that's the imaginary number, and the symbol is I. So this is the only thing you need to keep in your mind always when you see negative sign inside the square root, nothing else. So what are you gonna get in your result? We know square root of 4 is 2, right? So we're gonna write 2 here, and we see square root of -1 here. So what you should write for -1? What you should write for this part? You have to write I, nothing else. This is called imaginary number. If you don't have any idea what is imaginary number, just go back to the lesson 13, then you will be totally clear about that. We learn when negative sign outside of the square root, what we should do. We learn when negative sign inside the square root, what we should do. So let's say we have one negative sign inside the square root and another negative sign outside of the square root. In that case, how we gonna simplify that? Here is the square root of 4. You see there is one negative sign here and another negative sign here. In that case, what are you going to do? So let's skip this part for now. We're going to think about only this side first. So how for this part, just think about this one. It's the same thing you see here. Is the same thing. So we know square root of -4. We're going to do it like that same way. Square root of 4 times square root of -1. So we're going to got the result 2y for this part. And now we're gonna solve this part, and we're gonna solve now this part. What are you gonna do? This negative sign, where this sign gonna go? It's same thing when you did this one. When you did this one, you see the connection, right? This one and this one have a connection. They just join both of them and they did this part, right? So for this negative sign, all you need to transfer it this side, nothing else. This negative sign gonna go here. This negative sign gonna go here, nothing else. You see that? So that's all about our lesson 13. I'm gonna move on our next lesson right now. In lesson 14, we're gonna learn if this is not the perfect square, how we're gonna solve that. All the time we're not gonna get the perfect square. We have to simplify like different kind of number, like we're not gonna get like 4, 9, 16 every time, right? So how we gonna solve that part? For example, let's say we have 12. So which two number you multiply to get 12? Nothing, right? In that case, you have to break down a number and then you have to move on. So let's say, for example, when you see square root of 9, you're gonna multiply it 2 times. You're gonna multiply 3 2 times, so you know square root of 9 is 3. So our result is 3. So when you get 16, square root of 16, what are you gonna get? How are you gonna simplify that? Just 4 times 4 is 16. So the result is 4. But let's say this is I'm gonna use different ink. Let's say this is square root of 14, square root of 12. How are you gonna simplify that? You're not gonna get two identical number to get square root of square root of 12, right? So in this case, you have to think like which two number you need to multiply to get 12. So let's think about that. Which two number you need to multiply to get 12? It's like 6 times 2 is 12. Like you're gonna write it down. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 6 is 12. And 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 2 is 12. And what else? 12 times 1 is 12. So in these 3 cases, you have to find a perfect square number to break it down. Like you see, there is 2 and there is 6. So you cannot use them because you're not gonna get two identical number to get 12, right? To break it down to get 12, right? So in these 3 cases, you have to find which one have perfect square, right? So we see we're not gonna get perfect square for 2 or 6. We're not gonna get perfect square for 3. But the 4 have perfect square. The 4 have perfect square. I'm gonna mark it. The 4 have perfect square. So which two identical number we need to multiply to get 4? Is 2 times 2 is 4, right? Remember that. Remember it from our last lesson. 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 4 is 2, right? So then we can use this one to break it down, right? So you see 3 and 4, so you can break down 12 by 3 and 4. So to break down 12, which number you should use from this list? Let's check it. If we take 2 and 6, we're not gonna get any perfect square number, right? Let's check this one. If we do it by 3 and 4, now we see 4 is a perfect square number here, right? Second one have the perfect square number 4. So let's see what happens if you use it here. So we're gonna use square root of 4 times square root of 3. So if you break down square root of 4, what are you gonna get? You're gonna get 2. and square root of 3 you cannot simplify it, right? So you have to keep it like that. So that would be our answer. So this is our answer, 2 square root of 3. That's your answer. So let's do another one. Let's say we're gonna simplify square root of 24. How we gonna simplify that? Square root of 24. Square root of 24. So to get square root of 24, what two number you should multiply? 4 times 6 is 24. 12 times 2 is 24. I think we got the number here because I see there is a perfect square number here. We see again 4 and we got 6, we got 12 and 2. What else we gonna get? 24, 3 times 8. Only 4 have the perfect square root, right? In these 3 cases, we see only 4 have the perfect square number. Although 6 doesn't have that, you don't have any problem with that because you can keep one number like that. You don't have to simplify that part, but you can if you break down 24, you can get 4 and 6, and 4 have the perfect square. 4 have the perfect square root. So we can go by this one. Square root of 4 times square root of 6. So for square root of 4, we know that our answer is 2. So the result is square root of 6. So our answer is 2 and our result is 2 times square root of 6. This is your answer. That's it for today. In our next class, we're going to discuss how to simplify the bigger number like square root of 256. In our next class, we're going to discuss. Thanks for watching. See you next class.